that all good like that? Okay. Excellent. Do you want to, I'll do most of it.
Yeah, you'll do most of the talking. Yes.
Okay. That's okay. All right. Thank you so much for having us here this morning. I'll just start by introducing ourselves in case people don't know who we are. Tom, do you want to just say where you're from?
So I've been in Kununurra about 3 years now, and grew up in Katherine. Spent 15 years down south in the wheat belt. And then, I've just come back up 3 years ago, met Zoe, and got married to her 2 years ago. So, yeah.
So that's Tom. He's my lovely husband, blessed to be married to him. I'm Zoe. I was born down in Perth. I grew up in Pingelly in the wheat belt. And then I was blessed in 2014 to get a graduate spot with legal aid in Broome. And then I've been up in the Kimberley and Pilbara with a short stint in the Solomon Islands since 2014. So just in the last couple of months, something quite exciting has happened where I've been endorsed as a candidate for Australian Christians. And thank you to People's Church for letting me come along and speak here. So I'm a candidate for this coming state election, which is on the 8th of March for polling day. But early voting and remote voting is starting as early as the 23rd of February. So it's not far away. There's like less than 18 days before people start voting, even possibly less with postal votes as well. But I'm standing as a candidate for this electorate, which is the electorate of Kimberley. So we've got obviously Kununurra, Broome and all the towns in between, but it goes as far south into Punmu, which is sort of down in the Pilbara, covers Kirakara and a lot of the desert communities as well. So it's a huge electorate. I'm sure it's the biggest electorate in the state election. I feel very, very kind of humbled and privileged to be saying I'm a candidate for that electorate, but that's where I am. So we're rolling with it. So I have prepared some notes. I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit about me because I do have relevant experience and I am willing to work hard for the electorate of Kimberley. I'm also wanting to help families grow strong and grow together. And I think with politics and policy, it's time to use common sense and just get back to basics about what are the building blocks of our society and what do we want our society to look like. So I am passionate about things like housing and jobs, good parenting, and I do want to encourage generosity and respect, critical thinking and polite debate. I feel like when I was a child, they were normal things, but these days everything seems so heated. And I think if we can just get back to talking through what are our values and why do we believe in what we believe, then I think we could build a much stronger state and a much stronger Kimberley. So I'm a Christian, but if you're not of that faith, I still want to hear your story. I'm interested in talking to people from all walks of life. I thought I would tell you a little bit about my story. So in 1980, my mum, who sadly passed away about 10 years ago, she actually ran for Parliament herself. She ran for the Labor Party. Please don't hold that against me if you're not that way inclined. I wasn't even born in 1980. But I do think it's quite special because it's the same year that Ernie Bridge was elected to Parliament in the Kimberley as the first Kimberley Aboriginal person, and he left such an amazing legacy in Parliament and was a wonderful spokesperson for Kimberley people. I already told you I was born in Perth, grew up in Pingelly. So by age 14, I was already interested in politics. I was living in Pingelly, going to a public school, and I told Mum and Dad I wanted to do work experience at Parliament House in Perth. And my mum helped me arrange this. So as a child, I went to Perth and did a week or two of work experience at Parliament House. And then when I was aged 15, I did work experience with my local Member of Parliament. And I was really interested in politics, but the opportunity came up to study law and arts. And I felt that if you wanted to go into politics, you probably had to have some life experience first. So I ended up studying law and getting into a graduate program with legal aid, and I've been working in the law and justice sector here in the Kimberley for the last 10 years, mostly defending people with criminal charges or parents who are facing having their children removed. I've also done some other civil work. One opportunity that came up while I was in university was to go to Zimbabwe and work as a volunteer with Senator David Coulthard. So I also had that experience while I was at university, which is all really helpful for where we felt called and where I am right now. So now I've been given this opportunity to defend life, faith, family and freedom, because that is what the Australian Christians Party are standing for at this election. And I would say that they've had a history of promoting those values as well. I'll just speak to you briefly about the Australian Christians Party in case you're not familiar with them. So they are a political party, but they're also a ministry. And so everything that we do, we want to honour God. And in between elections, there's lobbying that can be done, where we can go to members of parliament or different parties and say, hey, we've got people in our electorate who care about these values, and we can work that way as well as running at elections. As a party, their policies are really based on God's way, because we believe God's way is the best way. And so it's getting back to those core Judeo-Christian roots where, there is answers. We can find them in God's word. So again, that's getting back to basics: life, faith, family and freedom. I'll just talk to you about life, family and freedom today. So life, that's what we're running for at this election. And we believe in life, and our policies reflect that life is important. Life is a gift from God. It's special. Let's cherish it. How do we do that? Let's support mums, babies, dads and families. Let's support them so much that ending a life before we're called to glory is unthinkable. That's a difference that Australian Christians are standing for at this election that no other party is standing for that sanctity of human life. And we're saying, let's get more supports wrapped around families so that ending a life before God wants to take us anywhere is unthinkable. Family. The government needs to support the whole family. So one practical example of a policy that Australian Christians are standing for is supporting counselling for the whole family unit, or even for couples, not just individuals. I myself have had a mental health plan and gone through that system, and I can get counselling, but we can't get counselling together, and sometimes that potentially could be really helpful for families that are struggling. I'd also encourage people to have a look at the Australian Christians website. On there, they've got more of what their policies are for family. And I'm also happy to answer any questions after the service. If I can't answer them, I can refer you to someone, or I will get back to you with an answer. And then freedom, religious freedom, is one part of freedom, but it's more than just religious freedom, which is our freedom to meet together and worship God and be able to say, I'm a Christian at work, without being worried that you might lose your job or something like that. Freedom, I think, for Australian Christians is also about watching that overreach of the government and making sure that they're not overreaching and that they have their role, and then families, churches, organisations have their role as well. So one practical example of that is Australian Christians think the firearm legislation that's recently been passed and is going through is poorly crafted and needs to be reviewed or repealed, because that legislation is making it harder for people to live off the land or on the land, and it's being created, by people far away from those realities, which is something Tom and I are quite passionate about, wanting to provide strong representation for Northern Australia and people living in regional and remote areas, and Aboriginal people, First Nations people. Certainly Australian Christians have a policy about First Nations people and consulting local Aboriginal elders and leaders, and I would absolutely be on board with that if elected. I'd be wanting to get a group of advisors around me from all specialities, because my experience is in law and justice and in loving the Lord, but I would definitely need advisors from all sorts of areas if I was to be elected. I thought I would just finish. Tom and I had the privilege of meeting Rodney Rivers. We've got to meet some lovely people and influential people, and during the whole 1 month that I've been endorsed and campaigning, and he gave us some beautiful photos with his poems on them. So I just wanted to finish with this one, Sweet Communion. In cool and leafy valley where treetops sweep and sway, I walk with God, my Lord, my friend, before the break of day. On and on through shady glen, in mystic sweet embrace, I walk with God, my Lord, my friend, in the garden of his boundless grace. And certainly we are appreciating that there's lots of people praying for this upcoming election and that God's grace is in it all. We too will honour whoever is in power at the end of the election. But really thankful for this opportunity. There's five options for voting for at this upcoming state election. So Australian Christians is one of them. Two myths that even myself probably didn't realise. A vote for a minor party is not a wasted vote, because if you put a minor party like Australian Christians first, and if Australian Christians or myself isn't the successful candidate at the election, then whoever you put second, your vote will just roll to them. And then if that person doesn't get in, then your vote will roll to the next person. So actually by putting a minor party first, or voting as a Christian first, your vote is, you can maximise it, because you can tell the government or the Australian Electoral Commission, this is what I really value, but okay, if that candidate's not the one that's elected, then I would choose this one and I would choose this one, and your vote will end up, it does matter. So voting as a Christian first is powerful, and voting for a minor party is not a wasted vote. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Tom?
Just thanks very much for letting us come and speak here, because often it's hard to talk about politics in a church kind of setting, but we really appreciate letting us come, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.